Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Coffee and Crypto. We have Miles, head of research at Blu Ocean Games Guild, here with us, and we're going to talk about Gods Unchained. So, one of the best parts I'd say about your role is you get to explore all these different games. And just a couple weeks ago, actually, like what, 9 days or something like
It's
that?
been 9 days now that I've been playing Gods
Yeah,
Unchained,
I was
and
like, let's get a report
they've
done up
been
for this.
relatively sleepless.
And I
So
haven't seen you for a while.
well,
since.
yeah, I've been busy. I've been working.
Right?
So this game is, if you're a Magic the Gathering player, this game is for you. It's unbelievably for you. Or if you're a Hearthstone player, and a lot of people are really picky about those things. So if you're a Magic the Gathering player who doesn't like Hearthstone, like try this, and you might find that it's more like Hearthstone than Magic. But the point is that the system is really robust.
Okay.
And it has its own robust set of rules that are similar to, but not the same as Magic the Gathering. And the play and earn aspect is really, really on point.
What did you give it for a confidence
I gave it a 4.4 out of 5 for
Okay.
a confidence rating. I'm really confident in this game going forward because even in this bear market, the token is worth quite a bit.
Okay.
The people who are behind it are the people who made Immutable X.
That's awesome.
And one of the guys who's leading the development team is one of the guys who led the development team for Magic the Gathering Arena. And that is super
okay.
clear to me when you get into this game, because when you get into this game, even like the layout looks a little bit like Magic, and the way that it plays is, I would say, a little similar to Magic.
Okay.
It's got its own lore. There's 6 different gods with their own domains, which are basically 6 different colors. So imagine like the Magic colors, except
see.
black is split up into purple and like bluish green.
Okay.
And one of them is death and the other one is deception. But the other colors are pretty
Cool.
much the same as you might imagine they would be.
So 6 instead of 5.
6 instead of 5, and there's a colorless thing. So then you build your deck with your god, and your god with each god you can choose up. There's 3 different powers that you can choose that they have that you just always have, and
Okay.
they have a mana cost, and you can activate them whenever you have the mana on your turn.
Nice.
There's no like instant thing, so you can't really do things on your opponent's turn, but that's not a hindrance to the game because the game flows just a little bit differently than Magic does.
Okay.
And the other super important thing that I thought was super fun that Magic doesn't do is that everything on the board that is permanent, the state of it is permanent. So if
Okay.
you have a creature that's burning and that has death touch and you bring it back to your hand and then you put it back onto the board, it still has burning and it still has death touch, and whatever its toughness was is whatever it was.
Oh, okay.
So
Interesting.
the toughness doesn't regenerate at the end of turn and things like that. And
That's
then the
cool.
last thing is there's a mana wheel. So instead of you having lands in your deck that you draw and then put down and use for mana, you have this wheel in the corner that every turn it kind of goes up,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of by the time you get to turn 5, you've got 5 mana unlocked, and then by the time it's turn 7, you've got 6, and turn, I think it's like 10, you have 7 or something like that. I
Okay.
can't remember exactly how it goes, but you unlock all the way up to 9, and then you have these things called mana gems, or I think it's called like a small bag of tricks or something like that. And so the person who goes first gets 1, and the person who goes second actually gets 3 of them. And what they do is they just give you an extra mana and unlock an extra gem.
Okay.
So if you were at 2, maybe this turn you're at 3, and then next turn you'll be at 3.
Okay, that's kind of
So
like
yeah, so you
Hearthstone
can,
a
yeah,
little
so
bit.
you've got this like way to boost against your opponent and try to keep, and the creature board state is really important. You can only have 6 creatures up at a time, and their toughness is sort of permanent.
Oh, it's
so-
maxed at 6.
It's
So
maxed
you
at
can't
6,
play a
yeah.
7th. You have to wait
And
till
then the
one
last
dies.
interesting thing is that when there's something that's kind of like artifacts, but they're called relics, and basically they're wielded by your commander, by your god.
Okay.
Your god has 30 life. He sits in front of you, and he's the thing that your opponents try to
I see.
attack. Your opponents with their creatures can target who they attack, your creatures or you. And only you can only really prevent that if you summon a creature that says that it can prevent that with something like Frontline or whatever one of the abilities are.
Oh, so it's not automatic blocking. You don't have to
so-
get through the creatures.
Yeah,
to get
no,
to
you don't
the-
have to get through the creatures unless the creature says that you do.
Okay, I see.
And so that makes it really different. So
Yeah.
so I've been playing this game a little bit. I was like, okay, this sounds like it's going to be pretty fun. You know, I played that other card game. What's the other card? Splinterlands.
Yep.
I was like, everybody's like talking about this game. This game looks fun. But I played Splinterlands and was done with it in about 2 days
Okay.
because it's a difference between deterministic games and non-deterministic games. And a game that is non-deterministic is a game where you don't change anything about the outcome, and it just you put the pieces in play and they just sort of play out.
Mhm.
And a deterministic game is a game where you have to make choices in order
Strategy.
to determine the outcome.
Yep.
And this game is the first that I've ever seen that's properly employed deterministic card game, like collectible card game
Okay.
for in the crypto world that is drawn my attention anyway. And it's done so really, really well because it's backed by its market that is sort of holding stable. And I was like, why is this market so much stronger than the other? Why is there so much more liquidity going through here? Well, it's the same as a Magic the Gathering market. Cards have value based on how utilizable they are in the game. And there's a limited number of them. So it's as simple as that. More people are playing this game, and there's those cards. And So I was like, okay, well, this sounds like fun. How can I earn? How can I get cards for my deck? Do I have to ask my boss for a research grant, or can I just start playing and will I be able to earn something? And then I found out, well, based on your win-loss ratio, they just implemented their daily play and earn thing. You can play 10 games a day, and based on your win-loss ratio, you get a number of shards. There's a number of shards total that users get in a day, and there's also a number of their token, God's token, that is able to be gotten by people in a day.
Okay.
So based on your ratio of shards that you get compared to everybody else, that's the same ratio of the pie of gods that you're going to get at the end of the day compared to everybody else.
Okay.
So you might earn, 0.4 gods token on a day where you get a lot of losses, and you might earn 0.8 gods token on a day where you get a lot of wins.
And the idea is use that to reinvest to buy more cards.
That was the idea for me. I was like, this seems like the best way to progress. You know what I mean? So I went and looked at that, and I went through the tutorial. They're like, here's 10 packs of non-NFT cards. Wow, 10 packs.
Okay.
You do just a couple of matches and you get some fuel for the fire, and you can still play ranked matches with the non-NFT cards.
Cool.
But I don't think you can enter the tournaments or any of their play to earn events without NFT cards.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, I want to get some NFT cards. What do I need to do? So I won some matches, and I tried a few different colored decks, and by the end of the time I'd played 10 matches, and I think I won 5 of them, and I was okay. I earned like half a token. It's going to unlock in 7 days. 7 days go by, I continue to play, and I'm going to continue to get these like half a token or almost, whatever it is for what I win. And I unlock my first little bit. I'm like, okay, what can I do with my first little bit? Well, I bought 2 cards that I really, really wanted that I saw somebody else playing against me. And I was able to get a whole rank up and go to the next rank and win a bunch of matches that day. Oh, well, look at that. I earned a bunch more.
So the progression was satisfying.
The progression is satisfying. And the amount that you earn, whether you're getting to a higher rank or not, is also satisfying. Because if you win 5 and lose 5 and you go up in rank and go back down in rank, well,
I see.
You know what I mean? Then you're still earning a little bit.
Now, it's interesting from my perspective because I heard about this. This is actually one of like kind of the original Web3 games. Like it was one of in the first batch. Like I remember during the bull run, it was like that was already known about. But when I looked into it and I seen some of the price on the cards, I was like, whoa, I'm not prepared to jump into this. I don't know it yet.
There's a bit of a caveat to that too. I'll talk about that a bit. I went on the marketplace and I realized that there is a quality system to the cards as well as a rarity system to the cards. So a card might be an uncommon card like you might find in Magic, but there will be different quality versions of that uncommon. And it goes... I think it goes plain and then meteorite and then shadow and then gold and then like diamond or something like that. And the higher quality cards will have a different border that looks way cooler than the other borders. Can earn you more shards when you play with them in a game. You can use them in play to earn events, and I understand they're more effective in those play to earn events. And the last thing is they might have alternate arts that the other cards don't have.
That's interesting how it impacts the earnings.
It can impact the earnings a little bit, which I thought was that's a huge thing. You know what I mean?
That is.
But also incentivizes you to blend your cards together because there's also a blending card system.
Oh, what's
if
that?
If you play this game free to play for 1,000,000 years and you have a bunch of copies of a single like plain card that's not an NFT, you can earn their second token, which is not a chain token. It's called Flux.
Okay.
You're earning Flux every time you get a win. And Flux and Gods together, you put, I think it's just 2 cards together, and you put some Flux and Gods in, and you can get an NFT for a meteorite version. So the second quality version of a card. So every card that's meteorite quality or higher is NFT quality and can be sold or traded on the marketplace. So
it has this
if there are cards that you really like and you already have them in your non-NFT collection, you want to blend your way up, you can blend your way up to an NFT deck.
That's nice.
With the cards that you've already got if you like your cards. And you can open some really good cards. Right off I opened some cards already. Like there's a card called Ballista, I think it is, and I opened it. It's worth like 35 cents already, and I've made a lot of use out of that card. And
nice.
I'm sure there's a couple other cards that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head that are worth at least $1 in USD, which I was like, that's huge.
I remember seeing like thousands of dollars for some of them.
And then once you get them all the way up to the diamond quality, and you're talking about the cards that people are playing in tournaments right now, we're talking about like between $1,000 and like $10,000, and then you've got those people who are listing things for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and like more, 50 grand just to see if people will bite type thing.
Okay.
And I don't imagine that there's a huge amount of biting on that because the daily volume in the game is not more than like 75
it might just be what it's listed at,
80 grand.
Okay.
So if we look a little, I think
a
a day is like $75,000 USD in Gods. Like it's quite a bit.
Okay.
There's a lot of action there because people want to play these cards and want to go to these events, and I understand the tournaments are pretty bumping. So.
Well, that's kind of what got me re-interested in it is the whole focus for us on esports. It's kind of narrowed down what that esports arena kind of is in Web3 right now.
Actually, it's my last category in reports. It's community, and that's part of the community thing. And the community thing for me is like people are jumping to get into these tournaments, and they're talking about
it's getting a lot of attention.
They're talking about a sealed draft thing. That's part of my like
that would be amazing.
Roadmap section.
I would love that.
In the roadmap section is really really nice for this game. You got sealed draft coming. You've got more, by the way, you can go into the game and go right into this little collection thing and go to the cards that you don't own and just see a whole collection just sorted by mana cost and sorted by color and of the cards that you do and don't own. And so you can decide for yourself if you think a card is going to be best or not. There's not as many cards as there is in Magic the Gathering. There's maybe 1,000 at best, and they're still building, and that's great. But if you catch on now and you want to learn what cards there are, like now's the time to learn the cards. I've learned quite a few of them already, and I already have an idea for a deck that I'm going to build.
Okay.
It's probably not going to take me more than a month or 2 months to get the money that I need, which would be like $10 USD if we're talking about.
It's like actually just earning up to it?
Yeah, just earning up to it. I might be able to earn 10 or 15 USD a month, but that's from investing nothing. And that deck might be powerful enough for me to place in a tournament where I earn more than that. I actually don't know yet.
Well, let's go a little deeper into that for some people who are watching who understand Magic or Hearthstone. What's the mechanics? What's the deck you're trying to build?
If we're talking about Magic mechanics, now we've got a game where you have a limited creature board. You can only have 6 creatures, and their toughness is permanent, and their creature state is permanent.
Okay.
So I chose blue color, and I was also thinking about choosing the purple, which is one of the black colors, because I wanted to have a lot of creature control in order to control these creatures that I'm going to use that are on the back line that do abilities.
Okay.
Abilities exist, but they're not instant. You can use them on your turn.
Okay.
So what I did is I found an assortment of creatures that do damage to creatures to help bolster my creature state permanently and automatically. You know what I mean? So this guy does 1 damage to the strongest creature at the end of turn, and this guy has an ability where you can choose somebody and do 2 damage or whatever.
Okay.
I was like, that sounds good. And then I can start building my creature state. And there's something called backline, which is you put a backline creature out, and any other creature has to be the target of an attack first before you can target the backline creature. There's also an ability called frontline, where that target has to be the first target before you can target the other creatures, and then the backline.
Oh, cool. You're creating like a position.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm going to try to create a position and keep these like ballistas and things in the back line and have them doing damage to the creatures that are in front of me. And that's what, I opened from a lot of my packs, and that seemed powerful to me. So then I looked at the cards in the collection. I'm like, what can I do to bolster this?
Yeah.
And I realized very quickly that just the same as Magic, if you give something leech or you give something deadly or you give something that if it does damage, that counts as the damage for leech or deadly or whatever.
I see.
I have one creature, and I think everybody starts with this creature because I think it's a core creature where you put it out and it's in the front line, and if it dies, the other creatures that you have behind it gain deadly. Well, I had just finished doing all this research about things that can target stuff and do 1 damage and stuff that does damage at the end of turn, and there's one creature that does damage to everybody at the end of turn. So my end game play is you try to get this guy out who gives deadly to everybody, and you try to get the other guy out who does damage to everybody at the end of turn. And I'm not making this up. Probably 2 games out of 5, I get those cards out, and probably one of those 2 games, I actually managed to get the thing to stick.
Nice.
And the opponents, they'll just quit. They're like, they have no idea what to do about it. They're like, anything I play will immediately get destroyed. So what do I do?
That's awesome.
And so let's expand on this a little bit. How can I, protect those backline creatures better? And how can I? So then I went looking for the cards that I could get to protect those things better. Well, it turns out that in the core set, there's things like Barricades, which is a frontline that is a 1/4. You pay 2 mana for it.
Okay.
Well, you can get something on the marketplace for maybe 20 cents. That's a 1/6 that you pay 2 mana for. I was like, well, let's start bolstering that way.
I see.
So now I found my first direction. I've managed to, in just a few days of earnings, move towards that direction and see a change in my gameplay.
Yep.
And then I'm going, okay, well, how do I, expand on this? It's only going to take me a couple more days of earnings before I can expand towards that. And now I've got like a whole plan, and I'm, I'm already 5 ranks or whatever it is. Now the truth is, I'm probably an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 Magic player. Like, I'm not professional level by any means, but I know what I'm doing when I play Magic.
Yep.
I know what I'm doing when I'm playing a card game or a tabletop game.
It's big for me too.
So if you're like me and you just know what you're doing when you play a tabletop game, you'll be able to progress in this game smoothly and make a little teeny tiny bit of money, enough to fund your addiction, which is really what you're after.
That's nice too. There's so few games that kind of allow that or facilitate that.
But then if you feel like, you want to put as much money as you might put into a Magic deck into this game, you might be able to place in a tournament if you're a good player. And that's what we want. And that's
how long are the matches? How much time can
so yeah, about that. You were a little bit late to our meeting today for this video, and in that time I was able to get a match done. It was only about 10 minutes.
Okay.
And I had a lot of fun. And it's
10 minutes, that's not bad.
10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes if it drags on a little bit, especially because of the mana wheel thing. You're not building a deck because you're worried about fixing your mana. You have 1 color of mana, and you are going to get it. So you build a deck that ramps, right?
Yes.
Because you know you're going to get your mana. So you want to make sure that you have something to play that mana, get the value out of your mana, right? Every turn, because they're going to do the same thing. And so that makes it really easy. The games go by pretty quick, and it's a lot of fun. But the last and most important thing is that if you operate a guild or if you have scholars and you want to employ this game to your scholars, it's pretty easy to do that too. You just can set up a wallet in the game. You can set. Well, no, there isn't yet, but they've talked about there being. That's another thing about the roadmap. They've talked about there being a system put into the game sooner or later. But
Okay.
For the time being, you can put a password on a personal MetaMask wallet,
Yeah.
and then you can distribute a username and password via an email. So they sign up with an email, and then you link
Oh, I see.
your
Kind of
MetaMask to
like
that
Bomb
email.
Crypto did
But
it.
if you don't distribute the MetaMask to them, then they don't have access to the buy and sell function on the Immutable X marketplace. But they do have the ability to use your collection and play the game and earn,
That's kind of cool.
which I think is pretty neat. And I think they might even have the ability to buy cards with the earnings. I'm not 100% sure on
It
that
might
one.
be a permissions thing.
You know
like
what I mean?
The
So
original owner could
yeah,
set
I
up
don't know
too.
about that. I'm not sure if that's a thing that we would have to set up secondhand right now, but in the future that won't be because they're planning on.
And what are some of the
they're
things they're
endorsing
planning
that.
on doing in the future and progressing the game? Is there any kind of is it just add more cards, add more tournaments? Or did you
As
notice
far as I
anything
know,
that
add more
seemed-
cards, add more tournaments. We got the sealed draft thing coming up, which I know is going to be a huge change. And I feel like, but I don't know if I saw any confirmation about this anywhere. There's eventually going to be more gods,
Oh, I see.
which
Okay.
would make a ton of sense. You would
You
have
can almost compare them to like a commander in
yeah,
Magic, right?
exactly. It's almost like a commander in Magic, but you have your choice of 3 different abilities that your commander might have for that game.
Oh,
So if
okay.
you choose this commander, but
And you're
choosing
stuck with that for the
ability,
game, right?
yeah, like for example, I have my commander is the blue commander that shows up, and he has 3 different abilities. The one ability costs 2 mana and just does damage to a thing, 1 damage. But the other ability is one where you just get to scry 2. And scry 2 doesn't sound super powerful for 1 mana, but when you only have 30 cards in your deck,
Oh wow.
and none of them
that's
are
big.
lands, it's like
Yeah.
you can really pick the next thing. Like these 2 cards are going to cost 5 mana, and I only have 3 mana. I would like to draw.
Are they
something
all
that-
30 card decks?
They're all 30 card decks. They have to be 30, no less, no more, and you can only have 2 of a copy of each card inside your deck.
Oh, okay.
So I did the math, and that's kind of like if you had 2 of a copy of a card in a
15.
deck, it's kind of like having a 60 card deck in Magic with like 3 or 3.5 of a creature
Okay.
inside of it. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
And you get your mana, so you really don't have to worry about that part, which makes it a lot easier.
Now, going back to the economy, you're talking about how the liquidity, the daily trade volume. That's kind of
Yeah,
nice
I think
to
I saw
see.
$74,600 in USD go in one day, which
Now,
I
how are you
pretty
earning
significant.
from that? Like, here's what I'm thinking about. Can I just get lucky and get an NFT card? Is there packs? Is
so
there
as yes,
boosters?
you're opening packs. As I understand it, you can't open an NFT. I'm not sure if you can open an NFT card from a pack or not, from the ones that you're earning just from leveling up.
Okay.
I don't know if you can, but you could buy packs on their marketplace. And I think you buy those packs for fiat. If not for fiat, then for USDC. And I believe some of that money is going in to fund their rewards pools and things like that. So if you just want to get into the game and get a bunch of NFT packs and start playing the game, you can do that too.
Oh, cool.
And that's going to fund the marketplace. The other thing I noticed is, and I didn't actually know what the number was until I looked at it, when I claimed my first earnings, I found they took 10% there too, which is probably fair.
Oh, okay. So there was like a withdrawal fee.
So there's a withdrawal fee for getting your daily earnings, which makes sense because that's probably also going into the earning pool. I'm not 100% sure about that yet, but I do know, I do have confirmation that some of these supplementary earnings, that is either ad earnings or pack buying earnings or like other fiat inputs, are being supplemented into their rewards pool, and that's why they
That's
decided to
cool.
do the daily play and earn thing, which is replacing their weekend.
And
thing
what
that they had
about
before.
the team? Also, I keep kind of thinking about like that's kind of impressive. The Magic background, the developer from Arena.
Yeah, I
the
didn't
team
look
from
into it too
Immutable
closely.
X.
When I saw Immutable X, I was like, these guys helped design Immutable X. These guys have somebody that helped design Magic. That's good enough for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I haven't seen a whole lot of their content yet, but I'm really excited to now.
Yeah. Right. That's
and
awesome.
I spent way too much time playing this game.
See,
I
that's
was
the
like, the important thing is the game good? You know what I mean? But the truth is I was just feeding my addiction. It gives me the same.
Well, that's why I was like, we need to do an
The
episode
same,
about this
yeah.
because
Oh my
I
God.
gave it to you as a research project and you just
Absolutely.
disappeared. You're like, I'm playing this so much. This
Well,
is incredible. That's
we've been
great.
doing like Friday night, sealed draft things with
Yes.
our company, just with members of our company, and just on our personal time recently. So I was like, well, if sealed draft is coming to this game and this game is giving me the magic itch, then maybe other people who I know who are crypto people, who are magic people, there's quite a few of those.
And the esports thing has me interested because
Yeah,
if
and the
there's
esports, because
tournaments
now then I
and-
find out that the tournaments are worth quite a bit of money, and that the actual daily volume of the game is pretty freaking high.
Mhm.
The Immutable X marketplace would be great place to buy and sell cards on the fly.
What have
so.
you seen? Some of the you said some of the prices were kind of exorbitant.
Oh yeah, I
for a
have seen
few.
some exorbitant prices. One of the cards that I've looked at that you can actually buy at the minimum price of like 540 or 550 USD, I think it is a 2/3 cat creature that uses his ability to just double the power and toughness of any creature.
Oh, interesting.
But the really, really high rarity versions of that creature, partially probably because it's a kitty cat, partially because it's a really powerful card, I imagine, they go for like 500 plus.
Wow.
I didn't even look at the descriptions of the cards that were $1,000 plus, because
Yeah.
even their minimum cost versions were like in the 300 to 500 range, and I'm like, well, I don't think
What
I'm
I
going to be
wonder
working
about
up
is
to
like
that.
return on investment timelines. Like if you
Yeah.
did go, let's say $10,000 and you built like the top meta deck, how long is that going to take to recoup based on your winnings, your earnings?
Yeah, if you were let's say you're like a 51%, player at the table type thing, and you've got a $1,000 deck which is I think would be the amount that you would need to pay to make the perfect that everybody's talking about a deck with lower rarity cards, so that you're not spending too much money on the quality cards. You're not spending too much money on the
kind of
quality
similar in
cards.
Magic.
Yeah, that's what you would do, right? You wouldn't want to buy necessarily all the foily art lands for your deck right away if you don't know it's going to be a
get the
perfect
cheaper
deck.
versions.
You'd get the cheaper lands first, and maybe even sub some of the super expensive cards to make sure it works first, and then you go and buy those expensive cards and play the deck in a tournament.
Bingo.
So
I'm
you can
curious
do that
about
here.
that.
Your subs are basically the non-NFT cards that you have in your library. You get a plethora of them, and a lot of them are cards that will see use in tournament play, and you might just get one or two of them here or there because you got lucky in a pack.
And it's just the 10 games a day that you can earn from?
10 games a day that you can earn from. More, you can do more ranked matches if you like. If you want to just try and up your rank, you can certainly play more, and you won't earn for your daily play and earn from that, but you can get a higher rank, or you can play a casual game.
Nice.
And then the last thing is you can actually play a direct game against somebody that you, like a friend, I think, that you know.
Cool.
So
you
there are
1v1.
Yeah, so you would be able to necessarily organize your own tournaments if you wanted to.
Here's another question: is it just 1v1? Is there only one format?
I think the format right now is just 1v1. I don't know if they're planning on bigger formats in the future, but I would imagine that they are. That's something that I have to research.
So it's like one game mode, and the reason I mentioned that in Magic, there's like 8 to 10.
There's several game modes in Magic,
Right.
and I was like wondering what are they going to do for this? But what I realized is that their first game mode is a streamlined kind of blend of them all.
Okay.
You have a little bit of element from Commander in that you've got a commander and you can choose an ability that you can lean on. They're not always the most powerful abilities, but they can be keystones to a particular deck if you build around it, which is the way commanders are supposed to work.
Yeah.
You can't have more than your maximum life, which solves the whole commander damage problem. I had something else that I was gonna say about that, but
well, it makes me think about, if it's blending all these different types of Magic, that they can focus on that
the other
one
thing is that's
format,
what I was
right?
gonna say.
Okay.
You can. It's like having a commander deck in that you can only have 2 of a card, not necessarily only 1 of a card in a deck, but the deck is quite a bit smaller. So when you put a single card in your deck, it has more impact.
Yeah, because you're more likely.
Because you're much more likely to draw it. If I put a single of a card in a deck, it's like having 1.5 or 2 of them in a 60 card deck, which is, if you're looking for that card by using, Scry or something like that, like you're gonna find it.
Yep.
So that means that when I put 2 cards in a deck that do something, that's a mechanic that I can lean on now because it's likely that I'm going to see it draw before the end of the game.
Well, that's awesome. I can just tell how excited you are talking about this.
I built a deck of all 5 colors with the packs that I earned before I settled on the color that I liked.
That's cool.
And then I was like, okay, I like this idea. I like this mechanic. Is there another that can do it better? So then I went and looked at the other colors and see if any of the other colors can do the thing that I was trying to do better. Black was a contender, but not necessarily the winner. And so I went with the blue thing.
Nice. And you've been bugging me. You're like, you have to play this.
Oh my God.
You're
I know you're a busy person, but you really got to play this with me. It's crazy.
And I totally will. I'm looking forward to it. So thanks so much for everyone joining us today. If you want to continue the discussion on Gods Unchained or you're curious, definitely come into our Discord. Sounds like I'm going to get reeled in here pretty soon to be playing it, especially because you have been. And it sounds like a lot of fun. And because it's in the whole esports arena right now, it means that our guild does want to focus on it because I'd say there's really less than 10 kind of solid Web3 esports focused projects.
In our guild right now, I feel like we have 3 people who can play cards and learn to play this game in 5 days to 7 days flat.
Easily, right?
There's not that many cards in the collection yet. And, we've got a little bit of a background in Magic, some of us. So maybe if we put those heads together, we can, in a month or 2 here, we can start looking at what the application for tournaments are.
And I'll be sure to do an introduction video and some follow-up stuff on this. So
can't wait.
Thanks so much for joining us today, everyone. I really appreciate your time here. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Of course, slam that like button because this helps the YouTube algorithm show this video to other people who are interested in this type of stuff.
We want people to see our stuff.
Yeah, and last but not least, hit the bell notification to stay up to date for all our awesome content we have coming out for you guys on a consistent basis. And until next time, cheers. Don't forget about our 1,000 subscriber giveaway where you can win $200. And if you need more information, be sure to join us on our Discord. See you there.